kind Omega rescued a wounded wolf. Unaware the injured beast was the Alpha King. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main character. Lily Harper had always been an outcast, an Omega with a heart too big for the cruel world she lived in. The pack she was born into never truly accepted her. Her scent was weak, and her presence almost unnoticed. As far as they were concerned, she was just another useless Omega. But Lily didn't care. She spent her days caring for the sick and the injured, helping anyone in need without a second thought, even though she often got nothing in return. One fateful evening, while walking through the darkened woods, she heard the desperate cries of an animal. The wind howled through the trees, but beneath it, a whimper of pain cut through the air. Instinctively, Lily followed the sound, her heart racing. What she found was unlike anything she had ever seen. A large black wolf, its fur matted with blood, lay struggling on the forest floor. It was an impressive creature, much larger than any wolf she had encountered before. Its eyes were closed, and it seemed to be in excruciating pain. Without hesitation, Lily knelt beside the beast. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest as she gently reached out to stroke the wolf's fur. "Shoo, it's okay," she whispered softly, her voice barely a murmur. She wasn't sure if the wolf could even hear her, but the compassion in her heart drove her to help. Her hands worked quickly, examining the wolf's injuries. It appeared to have been caught in a trap, its leg badly wounded, and it was clearly exhausted from the ordeal. Lily took a deep breath and knew she had to do something. She carefully wrapped the wolf's leg with a piece of cloth she had in her bag and gently lifted it, guiding the animal toward her home. The walk back was slow, but Lily refused to leave the creature behind. As she reached the edge of the forest, she felt a strange sensation, as if she was being watched. She glanced around, but there was no one in sight. Lily shook off the feeling and continued toward her cottage, unaware of the eyes that followed her from the shadows. When she finally arrived home, she laid the wolf down on a soft bed of straw in the corner of her small cabin. She did everything she could to help it, using what little medicine she had on hand to tend to its wounds. As the night grew darker, she sat beside the wolf, keeping watch over it. Exhausted, she finally fell asleep beside the creature, her hand resting gently on its fur. What she didn't know was that the wolf wasn't just any animal. Beneath that dark fur and bloodied body, it was the Alpha King in disguise, hiding from a curse that had bound him for years. Gabriel Thornridge, the Alpha King, had been forced to flee his kingdom after a deadly curse took control of him, leaving him to wander the lands in the form of a beast. But as the night passed, something unexpected began to happen. The bond between the Omega and the Alpha King was starting to form. Gabriel could feel the warmth of her touch, the kindness in her heart, and he was drawn to it. But he couldn't reveal himself, not yet. Not until the time was right. For now, Lily Harper had no idea who the wounded wolf was that she had saved. She had no idea that the very beast she was tending to was not just any wolf, but the Alpha King himself. Lily awoke to the soft light of dawn filtering through the trees outside her cottage. The wolf she had rescued lay still beside her, its breathing steady and calm. She had spent the entire night by its side, tending to its wounds, and now, as the first rays of morning light crept into the room, she was exhausted, but a strange sense of peace filled her heart. She couldn't explain it, but something about the wolf made her feel connected to it, as if they shared a bond that transcended words. The previous night, after she had finished tending to its injuries, Lily had stayed by the wolf's side, keeping a watchful eye on it, and as she drifted off to sleep, she felt an odd comfort knowing she wasn't alone. She smiled softly to herself as she glanced over at the wolf. It seemed to be resting more peacefully now. She could tell its injuries were healing, and it no longer seemed as though it was in as much pain. Lily stood up and stretched, feeling a bit stiff from sitting for so long. She had to prepare for the day ahead. She had chores to do around the house, and she couldn't afford to waste any more time. But as she moved toward the door, she paused, her gaze falling back to the wolf. A strange thought crossed her mind. How had it ended up in such a state? Why had no one else come to its aid? She had heard rumors of strange creatures in the woods, but this wolf, there was something different about it. She felt as though it wasn't just a wild animal, but something much more significant. And then, as if on cue, the wolf stirred. Its eyes fluttered open, and for the first time, Lily saw them clearly. The eyes of the wolf were not like any she had ever seen before. They were a brilliant, almost glowing shade of silver, like the moonlight itself had been captured in them. For a moment, Lily froze, caught in their gaze. There was an intensity in those eyes, a power that she couldn't explain. The wolf slowly stood up, its movements more graceful than she had expected given its earlier state. It looked at her, and for a moment, neither of them moved. Lily's heart raced, and she couldn't help but wonder if the wolf could sense the connection she felt. It was as though it was waiting for something, perhaps for her to make the first move. The silence between them was heavy, but then, the wolf took a step forward, its body tense, as if trying to communicate something. Lily's breath caught in her throat as she instinctively stepped back, unsure of what to do. But the wolf didn't lunge or act aggressively. Instead, it simply stopped, its eyes still fixed on hers. Lily slowly reached out a hand, unsure if it was the right thing to do, but somehow, she felt that it was. She gently touched the wolf's fur. And as soon as her fingers made contact, a strange warmth spread through her hand, up her arm, and into her chest. She gasped, pulling her hand back as the warmth continued to pulse in her veins. The wolf, too, seemed to respond, its body stiffening, and for a moment, it seemed as though the entire room was filled with an electric energy. Lily's heart pounded in her chest as she tried to make sense of what was happening. What was this connection? Why did it feel so powerful? Before she could question it further, the wolf took another step, this time closer to her. It nuzzled its head gently against her side, as if acknowledging her presence. Lily's breath caught in her throat. She had never felt anything like this before. There was something undeniable between them, something that went beyond simple kindness. It was as though she had unknowingly stumbled into something much bigger than herself. But before she could fully process what was happening, the wolf took a final step back, as though it had made up its mind about something. It turned its head, and for the briefest of moments, Lily saw a flash of something else in its eyes, an intelligence that made her realize this was no ordinary animal. This was something else, something more. The wolf looked back at her one last time, and then, in the blink of an eye, it disappeared into the forest, leaving Lily standing in the doorway, her heart racing, wondering if she had imagined the entire thing. But deep down, she knew that something had just changed. She had no idea what it meant yet, but she knew her life would never be the same again. Lily woke up the next morning with a sense of unease she couldn't shake. She had gone to bed thinking the previous night was nothing more than a strange dream, but the odd warmth in her chest, the touch of the wolf's fur, and the strange connection still lingered in her mind. She stood up from her bed, her body aching from sitting in one position for too long, and moved toward the window. The sunlight filtered through the trees outside, casting a soft glow on the forest. It was a peaceful morning, but the events of the night before left her with more questions than answers. She had saved the wolf, and something inside her had shifted. It was as if the act of helping the creature had awakened something in her, a bond she didn't understand, but one she couldn't ignore. As she made her way to the small table where she kept her herbs and supplies, her mind raced. What was that connection? Why did she feel so strongly about the wolf? Was it possible that there was something more to it than just a simple act of kindness? The questions swirled in her mind, but there was no time for answers yet. She had chores to do, a life to continue, and she couldn't afford to let the mysteries of the night derail her. But as she moved through the motions of her day, gathering water, feeding her chickens, cleaning up the small cottage, her thoughts kept returning to the wolf. Hours passed, and just as Lily thought she might be able to push the thoughts aside, a knock on the door echoed through the cottage. She froze for a moment, her heart skipping a beat. Who could it be? It wasn't often that someone came by her cottage, especially not this far from the village. With hesitant steps, Lily made her way to the door and opened it. Standing in front of her was a man, tall and regal in appearance, with striking features that immediately caught her attention. His eyes were a deep, almost unnatural shade of silver, and his presence seemed to command the very air around him. He stood there, looking at her with a mixture of curiosity and recognition. Lily's breath caught in her throat as the man spoke. "I heard about your kindness," he said, his voice deep and smooth, like honey. "You saved a wolf last night." Lily's heart raced. How could he possibly know about that? She had barely left her cottage since. She stammered, unsure of how to respond. "It was just a wolf. It needed help." The man stepped forward, his gaze never leaving her face. "It wasn't just a wolf," he said softly. "It was something much more. And so are you." Lily's mind spun, her thoughts reeling. What was he saying? How could he know what had happened? And what did he mean by her being something more? Before she could ask him any of these questions, the man's expression changed, softening. "Forgive me," he said, stepping back. "Slightly. I haven't introduced myself. I am Gabriel Thornridge, Alpha King of the Northern Territories." The words hit her like a thunderclap. Alpha King, the ruler of all the wolves? Lily's heart pounded in her chest as she tried to make sense of what was happening. The wolf she had saved, the one she had felt such an intense connection with, it had been him all along? Gabriel stepped closer, his eyes searching hers as though he could see right through her. "You don't remember me, do you?" he asked, his voice softer now, almost apologetic. Lily shook her head, unable to speak, unable to form the words to explain the confusion that swirled within her. "No," he said, more to himself than to her. "I suppose it was never meant to be known." He paused, his gaze shifting to the forest behind her. "But I have been watching you, Lily. Ever since that night in the woods. You were meant to find me." Lily's breath caught in her throat. Watching her? The Alpha King had been watching her? "I don't understand," she whispered. Gabriel smiled, a soft, knowing smile that sent a shiver down Lily's spine. "You will. In time, you will understand everything. But for now, there is much for you to learn, much for us both to learn. The bond we share, it's only just beginning." Lily's heart raced as the weight of his words sank in. She had no idea what was happening, but one thing was certain. Her life was about to change forever. Lily stood in stunned silence as Gabriel Thornridge, the Alpha King, spoke to her. His words echoed in her mind, though she could hardly make sense of them. She had saved a wolf, and now the ruler of the Northern Territories stood before her, claiming there was a bond between them, something that she hadn't even begun to understand. Gabriel's presence was overwhelming, and his gaze never left hers. "You felt it, haven't you?" he asked, his voice soft but insistent. "The pull, the connection. It's not just a coincidence that you found me." Lily's heart raced as she tried to gather her thoughts. She had felt something the night she saved the wolf, a strange warmth, a bond forming between them. But now, with Gabriel's revelation, it all felt surreal. Was it possible? Could she really be connected to the Alpha King in some way? "I don't understand," Lily whispered, her voice trembling. Gabriel gave her a small, understanding smile. "You don't need to understand everything just yet," he said gently. "But you will. There's more to this than you realize." He stepped closer, his silver eyes studying her carefully. "What you did for me that night, it wasn't just an act of kindness. You were chosen, Lily, by the moon, by fate. You saved me for a reason." His words felt like a weight pressing down on her, and Lily took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "Chosen," she repeated, her mind spinning. "But I was just helping. I couldn't leave you there. I couldn't just leave you to suffer." Gabriel nodded, his expression serious. "I know, but that's what makes you special. You have a heart that doesn't turn away, even when faced with something as dangerous as me." Lily's confusion deepened, but she didn't pull away from his gaze. Instead, she found herself captivated by the sincerity in his voice, the warmth that seemed to radiate from him despite his imposing presence. "You're not what you seem, are you?" she asked quietly. Gabriel's smile faded slightly, and he nodded. "No, I haven't been for a long time. The curse I carry, it's not something I can escape easily. But you, Lily, you've awakened something in me, something I thought was lost forever." Lily's chest tightened at his words. She didn't know what to make of them, but she felt a strange sense of responsibility, as if his burden was somehow now her own. "What does this mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What are you asking of me?" Gabriel took another step closer, his presence almost too much to bear. "I'm not asking anything of you, not yet," he said, his voice low and soft. "But I will need you, Lily. There's a greater purpose behind this bond, something beyond us both. And you're the key, The weight of his words settled in the pit of her stomach, and she looked away for a moment, trying to process everything. I don't know if I'm ready for this, she admitted, her voice shaky. Gabriel reached out and gently cupped her face, lifting her gaze back to his. You don't have to be ready, he said quietly. But this is bigger than both of us. I can't fight this alone. Lily's heart pounded in her chest, and she knew deep down that her life had just changed in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. What do you need me to do? She asked, her voice steadying with a resolve she hadn't expected. Gabriel smiled at her, the first truly warm smile she'd seen from him. I need you to trust me, and to trust yourself. For the first time in what felt like forever, Lily felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she wasn't as alone as she had always believed. Together, they would face whatever was coming, and Lily was beginning to realize that the bond they shared might be the key to saving them both. Lily spent the next few days in a daze. Gabriel had left her with more questions than answers, and though she had promised to trust him, she couldn't help but feel overwhelmed by everything. The wolf, now revealed to be the Alpha King, had stirred something deep inside her, something she hadn't known was there before. Every moment she spent in his presence felt like she was standing on the edge of something immense, something that could change the course of her life forever. Gabriel had been patient with her, always allowing her the space she needed to process. But she could feel his gaze following her whenever they crossed paths, his silver eyes full of quiet expectation. It was as if he was waiting for her to step into her destiny, but she wasn't sure she was ready. One evening, as she sat by the fire in her cottage, trying to focus on a book she had been reading, a sudden knock at the door startled her. She stood up, her heart racing, and walked cautiously toward the door. She had a feeling she knew who it would be. When she opened it, Gabriel stood there, looking as imposing as ever. His dark cloak billowed around him in the wind, and his silver eyes seemed to glow with an intensity that took her breath away. Lily, he said softly, his voice deep and smooth. May I come in? She hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to say, but something in his gaze made her step aside and let him enter. Of course, she replied, though her voice was barely above a whisper. Gabriel stepped into the small cottage, his presence filling the space, and Lily felt a mixture of nervousness and curiosity. He had been coming to see her more frequently in the past few days, and each time, he seemed to be waiting for something, waiting for her to acknowledge whatever bond they shared. I've been thinking, Gabriel began, his tone measured and calm, about what we discussed the other day. Lily nodded, though her mind was still trying to catch up with everything that had been happening. And what did you decide? She asked quietly, trying to sound more confident than she felt. Gabriel took a step closer, his presence undeniable. I think it's time we talked about the next step. Lily's heart skipped a beat. The next step? What was he talking about? What do you mean? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. Gabriel studied her for a moment, as if weighing his words carefully. You're ready, Lily. I can feel it. The bond between us, it's growing stronger every day. You felt it too, haven't you? Lily swallowed hard, her thoughts swirling. She couldn't deny the strange pull she had felt toward him ever since she had saved the wolf. It was as though a part of her was drawn to him, as though their fates were intertwined in a way she couldn't understand. I don't know, she said, her voice barely audible. I'm not sure what to feel. Gabriel's expression softened, and he reached out, his hand gently cupping her cheek. It's okay to be scared, he said, his voice tender. This is a lot for you to take in, and I'm not asking you to understand it all at once. But I need you to trust me. Lily closed her eyes at the warmth of his touch. It felt so familiar, so right, yet so foreign all at once. She had never felt this way about anyone, and the more she tried to push the feelings aside, the stronger they became. I want to trust you, she whispered, her eyes fluttering open to meet his gaze. Gabriel's eyes softened even further, and for the first time, Lily saw a vulnerability in him, a crack in the armor that he had so carefully built around himself. Then come with me, he said, his voice almost pleading. There's something I need to show you. Lily hesitated, unsure of what he meant, but her curiosity won out. What is it? She asked. Gabriel smiled, a rare and genuine smile that made her heart flutter. It's a part of me that I've kept hidden, a part of our bond, and I think you're ready to see it. Without another word, he extended his hand to her, waiting. Slowly, Lily took it, feeling the warmth of his touch seep into her skin. Together, they left the cottage and stepped into the night, the moonlight casting long shadows on the forest floor. As they walked side by side, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that this was a turning point. Something was about to change, and she wasn't sure if she was ready. But in that moment, with Gabriel beside her, she realized that maybe, just maybe, she didn't need to be ready. Maybe she just needed to trust in the bond they shared. Lily followed Gabriel through the forest, her mind racing with thoughts she couldn't quite organize. The night air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and fresh earth, but despite the beauty of her surroundings, her heart felt heavy with uncertainty. She had agreed to follow him, to trust him, but she had no idea what awaited her. Gabriel moved effortlessly through the trees, his presence commanding and powerful. There was a sense of purpose in his steps, as if he was leading her towards something important, something that she needed to understand, but couldn't yet comprehend. As they walked, Lily couldn't help but notice how different he seemed in the quiet of the night. His usual confidence was tinged with something more vulnerable, something that made him appear less like the alpha king she had seen before and more like a man struggling with a burden too heavy to bear alone. She found herself wondering what kind of life he had lived before all of this. What kind of pain had he endured? What had driven him to seek her out? Her thoughts were interrupted as they arrived at a small clearing in the forest. The moonlight bathed the area in an ethereal glow, casting long shadows on the ground. In the center of the clearing stood an ancient stone structure, partially overgrown with ivy and moss. Gabriel stopped and turned to her, his silver eyes meeting hers with an intensity that took her breath away. "This is it," he said quietly. "What is it?" Lily asked, her voice barely a whisper. Gabriel's gaze softened, and for a moment, she saw the vulnerability she had sensed earlier. "This is where I was born, the heart of my family's power. This is where the bond between us truly begins." Lily's heart skipped a beat. "The bond?" she repeated, her voice shaking slightly. Gabriel nodded. "Yes, the bond we share is ancient, stronger than any force I've ever known. It's not just about what we've felt. It's about what we are meant to be." Lily stared at him, confusion clouding her thoughts. "But I don't understand," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm just me. How can I be part of something like this?" Gabriel stepped closer to her, his hand reaching out to gently grasp hers. "You are more than you realize, Lily," he said softly. "Your kindness, your strength, your heart, it's what brought us together. You saved me, but more importantly, you awakened something inside of me that I thought was lost forever." Lily's pulse quickened as she looked into his eyes. She felt it then, the pull, the connection. It was undeniable. She had felt it from the moment she had saved the wolf, but now, standing here in this sacred place, it felt stronger, more real. "What happens now?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Gabriel's hand tightened around hers, his touch warm and comforting. "Now, we take the first step," he said. "The bond between us is the key to breaking the curse that has haunted me for so long. Together, we can destroy it. But it won't be easy." Lily's heart beat faster as she absorbed his words. She didn't fully understand the weight of what he was asking, but she knew she couldn't turn back now. "I don't know if I'm strong enough," she admitted, her voice cracking. Gabriel smiled gently, his fingers brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You are stronger than you think," he said softly. "You've already proven that." The air around them seemed to shimmer with an electric energy, and Lily felt something shift within her, a deep sense of knowing that she was no longer just an omega, no longer just a woman trying to survive. She was part of something much greater than herself. "I'm with you," she said, her voice steady now, her heart resolute. Gabriel's smile grew, and for the first time, she saw a flicker of hope in his eyes. "Then let's begin," he said, his voice filled with determination. As they stood together in the moonlit clearing, their hands intertwined, Lily knew that this was just the beginning. Whatever the future held, she was no longer walking alone. They were in this together, bound by something stronger than fate itself. Lily and Gabriel stood in the clearing, the night around them still and peaceful. The moonlight bathed the scene in a soft, silvery glow, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch toward them, as if nature itself was holding its breath. Lily felt a strange sense of calm, but also an undeniable weight. What Gabriel had said about the bond between them, about breaking the curse, echoed in her mind. She didn't fully understand everything, but she knew that this moment, this step forward, was something she could no longer ignore. Gabriel's silver eyes never left her face as he spoke again, his voice low and steady. The curse that binds me is older than I am. It's a dark magic, one that has plagued my family for generations. It twists the very soul, and it controls me in ways I can't explain. But with you, with the bond we share, I believe we can break it. Lily looked at him, her heart aching for the pain he must have endured. He had always been so strong, so confident, but in this moment, she saw the vulnerability beneath the surface. She saw the man, not the Alpha King. I don't know what to say, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I never thought my life would lead me here. To this, to you. Gabriel's expression softened, and for a moment, he seemed to drop the weight of his title. He stepped closer, his hand brushing against hers, a touch that sent a warm shiver through her. You don't have to say anything, he said softly. Just be with me. That's all I need. His words wrapped around her heart, and she felt a strange sense of peace in them. It was as if all the chaos of her life had led her to this point, this person, and now she had a purpose, something that mattered. I don't know if I'm strong enough to help you, Lily said, her voice trembling slightly. I don't know if I can do what you're asking of me. Gabriel's gaze held hers, and she saw a quiet strength in him, a belief in her that she hadn't known she could inspire. You've already done more than you realize, he said. You saved me. You gave me hope, something I hadn't had in years. That is more powerful than any magic, more powerful than anything I could ask for. Lily's heart raced as she took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his words settle in her chest. She hadn't expected to be a part of something so monumental, something so deep. But in Gabriel's eyes, she saw trust, and something else, something that made her want to be a part of this journey, to help him in any way she could. Then let's do this, she said, her voice steady now. Let's break the curse. Gabriel's face lit up with a mixture of relief and gratitude. Are you sure? He asked, his voice low, almost reverent. You don't have to do this if you're not ready. Lily nodded, her eyes unwavering. I'm ready, she said with a certainty she hadn't known she had. I don't understand everything, but I know this is the right thing to do. Gabriel stepped forward, his hand reaching for hers, and when their fingers touched, a spark of energy surged between them, stronger than before. It felt like an invisible thread had been pulled taut between their hearts, and for the first time, Lily felt as though she was truly part of something greater. Gabriel's voice broke the silence. Then let's begin, he said, his words filled with purpose. Together, the air around them seemed to hum with an unseen force as Gabriel led her toward the center of the clearing, where the ancient stones lay. The bond between them pulsed with each step they took, and Lily felt the world around her shift. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, she didn't feel afraid. Together, they could face whatever came next, and that was enough. She squeezed Gabriel's hand, silently telling him that she was with him, no matter what. He gave her a small, tender smile, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Lily felt at peace. This was the beginning of something new, something that would change both of their lives forever. Lily stood beside Gabriel, their hands still intertwined as they gazed at the ancient stones in front of them. The night was thick with silence, and the forest around them seemed to hold its breath. Lily could feel the pull of the bond between them growing stronger with each passing second. It was as if the very air around them was charged with an unseen energy. Gabriel's presence beside her was steady, a silent promise that they would face whatever came next together. His silver eyes locked onto the stones, his expression unreadable. Lily's mind raced with questions. What exactly were they about to do? How would they break the curse? But despite the uncertainty swirling inside her, she knew one thing for sure. She trusted Gabriel. For the first time in her life, she felt that she wasn't just a spectator in her own story. She was part of something bigger, something important. Gabriel's voice broke the silence, soft yet filled with an undeniable strength. This is the heart of my family's power, he said, his gaze never leaving the stones. The bond we share, the one that connects us, is tied to this place. It's where the curse began, and it's where it can end. Lily nodded slowly, trying to take in everything he was saying. How do we break it? she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Gabriel turned to face her, his silver eyes softening. By sealing our bond here, in this sacred place, the magic that ties us together will be completed, and the curse will no longer have power over me. Lily's heart raced as she absorbed his words. It sounded so simple, but she knew it wasn't. Are you sure? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. It feels like we're crossing a line. Gabriel gave her a small, reassuring smile. We've already crossed that line, Lily, he said, his voice filled with quiet conviction. There's no going back. But that's not a bad thing. This bond, what we share, is the key to everything. Lily's breath caught in her throat as she looked up at him, her heart swelling with an unfamiliar warmth. For the first time, she felt truly seen, truly understood. I'm with you, she said, her voice steady now. I trust you. Gabriel's expression softened, and for a moment, he looked almost vulnerable. Thank you, he whispered. Without another word, he led her closer to the stones. The air around them seemed to shift, as if the very forest was watching them, waiting. Gabriel stopped in front of the largest stone, his hand reaching for hers. This is where it begins, he said softly. Are you ready? Lily hesitated for a moment, feeling the weight of the moment settle in her chest. But then, with a deep breath, she nodded. I'm ready. Gabriel smiled, a look of pride in his eyes. Then let's finish this, together. As they stood before the stone, Gabriel's free hand reached out, brushing the surface of the ancient rock. The moment his fingers made contact, a surge of energy shot through the air, and Lily gasped as a warm, golden light enveloped them. The bond between them flared to life, filling her with a sense of power, of connection, that she had never known before. Gabriel's voice echoed in her mind, low and steady. This is the moment, Lily, he said, his words vibrating through her very soul. Our bond is complete. The curse is broken. Lily felt the energy around them intensify, and for a brief moment, it was as though time itself had stopped. She could feel the magic, the power, flowing between them, like a river of light. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the energy subsided, leaving them standing in the stillness of the forest, their bond stronger than ever. Gabriel's hand tightened around hers, and he turned to look at her, his silver eyes filled with awe. We did it, he whispered. Lily looked up at him, her heart swelling with emotion. We did it, she repeated softly, a smile breaking across her face. She had never felt more connected to another person in her life. The curse was broken, and together, they had done it. Gabriel's hand slipped into hers, and together, they stood in the moonlit clearing, the future stretching out before them, full of possibilities. Lily stood there, holding Gabriel's hand, still feeling the echoes of the powerful energy that had just surged between them. The curse had been broken, the bond they shared was complete, and for the first time, she felt the weight of their connection in a way that was impossible to ignore. It was as if the world had shifted, as if everything she had ever known had led to this moment. Gabriel's hand in hers felt like the anchor she had always needed, steady and unyielding. As they stood in the clearing, the silence around them was profound, but it didn't feel heavy. It was the kind of silence that came after something incredible, something life-changing. Gabriel finally turned to her, his silver eyes locking onto hers. You did it, Lily, he said, his voice soft but full of awe. We did it, she replied, her voice steady, though her heart was still racing. I can't believe it, she whispered, her eyes searching his. It feels like a dream. Gabriel smiled, a rare and genuine smile that made his features soften. It's real, he said, his voice full of certainty. We've broken the curse, and now we're free. Together. Lily felt a warmth spread through her chest at his words. Together. The word resonated deep within her, settling in a place she hadn't even known was there. What happens now? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Gabriel looked up at the sky, the stars twinkling overhead. Now, we rebuild, he said, his voice full of determination. Now, we move forward. Together. The words held so much promise, so much hope. Gabriel squeezed her hand gently, and Lily knew, in that moment, that they had just begun a journey that neither of them could have imagined. They had both changed, and the bond they shared had reshaped their destinies. Gabriel took a step back, his eyes never leaving hers. There's a lot I need to teach you, Lily. A lot we need to learn together. But first, there's something I want to show you. Lily tilted her head, curiosity piqued. What is it? She asked, her heart skipping a beat. Gabriel smiled again, that familiar, knowing smile. Come with me, he said, and with that, he led her deeper into the forest. The path ahead was uncertain, but Lily no longer felt afraid. With Gabriel beside her, she felt a sense of security she had never known before. The forest, once dark and intimidating, now seemed full of possibilities. They walked in silence, the weight of the night settling around them as they ventured further into the unknown. After a few minutes, they arrived at a small clearing, and Lily gasped as she saw what Gabriel had brought her to. In the center of the clearing stood a massive tree, its trunk thick and ancient, its branches reaching high into the sky. The tree glowed with a soft, golden light, and Lily could feel the magic radiating from it. This is the heart of my family's power, Gabriel said softly. The tree that stands here has been here long before I was born. It's where our magic begins, where it's rooted. Lily stepped closer, her breath catching in her throat. The tree was beautiful, and the energy it emitted was unlike anything she had ever felt before. It was ancient, alive, and full of wisdom. This is where you were born? She asked, her voice filled with awe. Gabriel nodded. Yes, this is where the curse began, and this is where it will end. The magic that binds me, that cursed me, is tied to this place. And now, we can set it free. Lily stood in front of the tree, her fingers brushing the rough bark, feeling the pulse of energy beneath her fingertips. How do we set it free? She asked. Gabriel took a deep breath. By making this bond permanent, he said. By sealing our magic here, together. The power we share will forever be tied to this place, and the curse will never again have control over me. Lily nodded, feeling a surge of determination. She had already come so far, and she knew, deep in her soul, that this was the right thing to do. Together, they would finally free Gabriel from the curse that had bound him for so long. Let's do it, she said, her voice firm. Gabriel smiled, his silver eyes glowing with pride. Then let's make our bond unbreakable. As they stood in front of the ancient tree, their hands clasped together, Lily felt the magic around them grow stronger, the energy in the air thickening with the power of their connection. She was ready. They were ready. Together, they would change everything. And this time, nothing could stop them.